security. So if we can go to the pizza joint, we can go get our hair done, we can go to the driving range, we can go shop, we can get off our dead asses once every other year and go vote. Anybody with me? Number 5, severely restrict early voting. Early voting should be reserved for doctors, nurses, pilots, truckers, shift workers, and people that legitimately cannot turn up to vote on election day. Now, what's going to take it to get there is number 6, is drastically reduced precinct sizes. Because you can't run people to voting centers with 20,000 people in line on one day unless we've laid the groundwork. So this is a massive architecture that we have to lay here to make elections work like they did, 30 years ago. Smaller precinct sizes. Number 7, and by the way, counting the votes at the precinct. That would totally get around the problems they have in Arizona today or California, where 1,000 or 1,200 registered voters are at a precinct and you can count the votes, have a pizza party at night, and celebrate moving on with your lives the next day. Because it's true, if Donald Trump would have won Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Nevada, but lost Pennsylvania and Michigan, we would be waiting on Arizona to decide the president. We'd probably have burning tires at every street corner. Number 7, ban ballot harvesting. It's going on in Wisconsin. It may not be legal or it may fall into a gray area, but these ballots are getting retrieved in the hinterlands where Harris is somehow outgaining Joe Biden. And they belong on bad registrations, and they are collected by people who happen to know whose ballot that is and how they can get their hands on it. That must be exposed. Number 8, Election Day is a holiday. It's only useful if we can get these restrictions on mail-in voting and early voting. That way, nobody has an excuse to not turn up and vote on Election Day. Number 9, this is important, and it will help your state. New reporting requirements for transparency. At its heart, I'm looking at Nevada, where you have 2 counties, Clark and Washoe, that make up 7 out of every 8 votes. It doesn't matter what the other 15 counties think. We're going to count ballots for 7 days after the election. They don't even need to be postmarked, and we weigh a lot more than you do. Wisconsin, of course, you have the problem with Milwaukee County waiting it out. I don't think that any county the size of Milwaukee or Dane County should have any business being able to report after the other 70 counties in the state have already put their ballots in. Massive, massive point for transparency, because ultimately, no matter who you support in an election, you should have the transparency to confirm that your guy lost fair. Okay, because that erodes the trust in our process of selecting our representation. And number 10, heavy prison sentences for those who commit election fraud. For some reason, the PowerPoint application always corrects firing squads to prison time. But all right. So that was a lot of information to take in. That was also my very first presentation after the 2024 election. So I hope that you found it useful and gained something out of it. I strive for accuracy. I don't like to make logical leaps that I can't justify, because I like to be able to back up everything I say when somebody puts it in my face. And for 4 years, I've been able to do that. I'm not going to deviate from that now. If we don't fix our elections, we're going to enjoy 4 years of Donald Trump, and we're going to go right back to where we were in the dark pit of November 2020 to January of 2021, wondering why we can't make it too big to rig. I'll tell you what, the next Republican nominee will almost certainly not be one of the most famous figures in the history of the world. And he or she is going to need people with common sense, ability to understand numbers and trends, and figure out exactly where their votes are being defrauded. Because every single fraudulent ballot that was cast in this election canceled out one of your legally cast ballots. I don't know how many people want to sit here and talk about the future and how much they love their kids and their grandkids, and then pass on to them an election system where their voice doesn't matter. People have died all over the world to bring about a system in which they could cast a vote. We sent soldiers to die in wars we couldn't win so we could dip people's fingers in purple ink. Why? Because we didn't want election fraud happening in their third world election. Why can't we do it here? It ought to be pretty obvious to everybody. But all of you guys have a role to play. My role is to give you information, to help you understand this stuff. Because you guys have a lot of people in your lives who have their heads in the sand. Who knows people like that? That are good people with good hearts, but they don't want to believe any of this stuff. Because we're a bunch of tin pot rebel rousers out here talking about garbage. It's your duty to go inform people, force them to look at this stuff and understand it, and then get loud about the small loopholes that are causing your state to produce wrong results. This is the most important challenge of our time. And it doesn't stop just because we got the right guy in the White House, because we don't have the 56 or 58 Senate seats that we probably ought to have. And God knows how many we should have picked up in 22 and 20 and 18. Nobody even knows. I can't even go down all 3,143 counties and tell you how many sheriffs that we've missed, how many state reps that we've missed. Look, Rachel knows state reps that should be back in the chamber this year, but they're not going to be. State senators, probably her own seatmate. But it doesn't do us any good if we can't talk about the issues and expose them, and they are going to be exposed. In fact, just about every single thing that we've been called deniers for is being exposed over the course of these several years. Somehow, Maricopa County failed to produce as many ballots as they did in 2020, despite 4 more years of massive population growth. That's the first time that's happened in Maricopa County since 1944. It's almost like I was right 4 years ago. So I'm willing to be right, but I don't want to be right just for the sake of being right. I want to be right because in 4 years, when we come back here to celebrate another Republican carrying the state and going back into the White House, that we did it with the right Senate representation, the right House representation, and a bunch of people locked up for the bullcrap that they perpetrated on this country for 4 years or more. So if you want to keep up with me, you can do that. I'll leave this up there. You can scan that QR code. The best way you can support my work is to sign up as a member of my Substack and keep my mission independent and out there. I really appreciate all of you. James, I appreciate you and the stand that you've made out here and the enemies you've made, because I think that you can tell more about a man by his enemies than you can by his friends. Rachel, thank you for speaking your wisdom to this crowd, and thank you for being who you've been in my life. She's really changed my life and put me on a path that I never thought I'd be on a couple of years ago. So it's not as fun to go travel anymore and be gone all the time. But for all of you guys, I appreciate you. Those of you I've known for a while, Frank, Jim, Tim, thank you guys for being here and being part of what's going to be really making our country great again. So God bless you.